Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Aquarius Rising Africa. And I'm so happy to have back with me again the amazing Jaymee Jay. Jaymee has been on as a guest, must be 4 or 5 times at least by now, right?
Yeah, I think this might be the sixth one. I'm not sure. I lost track.
Well, if you guys haven't caught any of my interviews with Jaymee previously, please do. We are really exploring some amazing rabbit holes here, talking about all sorts of programming, pre-birth programming, early childhood programming, the master-slave system in which we live and how that plays out in our society. It's quite amazing, actually, when we see all of that. So, Jaymee, welcome back. Have you had a
Hi, thank
wonderful
you.
week?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Yeah, we're just I guess we're just gonna carry on this week from where we were talking last week. So I'll try to remember kind of where we left off.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me put this little guy down here. I thought I just wanted to maybe start with reading a little bit out of this book. I don't, is it the right way? Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yes.
this is The Life of Fears by Casey Winterburn, who is an African survivor. She's actually one of the only ones that I found a book. I don't think there's any other ones. If there is, somebody send it to me because I don't know. It's kind of rare to find a survivor from that area. So I just wanted
It
to
is.
bring attention to her books because I've read all of them and they're really worth reading. And I don't think they show up really on the algorithm. They're kind of at the end of this weird rabbit hole on Amazon. So like if you're not looking for them, you probably won't see them. But they're definitely worth buying and reading. They're actually pretty well
Just
written.
say the name. Caller, if you can just read out the name. The Life of Fears, Casey Winterberg. And I think it's on there as TikTok. Yes. The Life
Yeah,
of
she wrote
Fears,
three,
Casey
I think.
Winterberg.
The titles were there's three books. This one,
Okay,
TikTok,
there's TikTok. Yeah.
and
Life of
then
Fears, TikTok.
this one, Fear of Fears.
Life. Yeah, the Fear of Fears. Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty short and concise, but like really, they're worth reading. And I just wanted to read actually just kind of to start off today. This always stood out to me out of the books, and it really helped me understand dissociative identity disorder. So I'll just read it here. What happens when something that is happening in your life is so unbearable to you, so fearsome, and so overwhelming? What happens when it's happening to you and you're just a child? What happens when there's no way out of the situation that you know of? What happens when pretending is not enough? We happen. See, when a child is faced with something that they don't know how to deal with and they fear, they escape into their imagination. They pretend it didn't happen to them or that they didn't do it, that if they had done something they knew they shouldn't. They pretend someone else did it. That I think is really important because people, I think they understand dissociation, but not identity dissociation. So it's like kind of like this isn't happening. And then when you can't lie to yourself that something's not happening, you start the second option is this isn't happening to me. And so I think she
Right.
describes that quite well here. It's happening to someone else. It's how they survive. I don't know how it is that children are able to escape into their imagination, except that I just know that it seems to be something that a young child is much more capable of doing than an adult. And perhaps it's because the child is still forming their identity. Um, the same kind of thing happens when a child who grows up to have a disorder, who grows up to have others inside their head. And for a very long part of their life, they won't be aware of the others in their head. There are two factors that are involved. One is the awareness of something being wrong or bad, and the other is fear of punishment if they get caught. If the child knows that something is bad and they are secure and do not fear punishment for admitting to knowing it will happen, then they don't need to pretend, they'll just tell. But when the child fears the punishment that it will pretend, and the chances are the greater the fear, the higher the chance of them pretending. When a child is faced with something that is so bad happening to them that they fear so intensely the punishment, they will keep it secret. What happens if that something bad is happened to them and it continues and they're made to feel it's their fault? What happens when they fear so much the punishment that is promised if this secret is told? What happens if they have to pretend like they are happy and nothing is wrong when inside they are consumed with fear? They learn to model. They learn to watch how an adult who is doing bad things can seem to be a completely different person when around other people, happy and kind, like nothing bad is happening, and the child tries to model it. But the only way for a child to model such is to pretend that it's not happening. But if they know, sorry, but if they know about it, then it is happening. So they pretend it's not happening to them. They pretend it's happening to Mary or Peter. And when the bad things are happening, they start to imagine that they are Mary or Peter. They are not themselves because they're aware of it happening. They have to acknowledge to themselves how they will pretend it's happening to someone else. So as there's no someone else, survival rests in being someone else, for then they can live with the secret, pretending it doesn't exist in their life, and by not being themselves. They do this becoming Mary or Peter in the situation. So that always stuck out in my mind. I had it all highlighted. I read this book probably 5 or 6 years ago. But I just thought that was just like a really well-written description of how a child develops DID is, when they're not able to deny that something is happening, they actually, their only choice is to internally change their self state and their ego state into this is happening to someone else and not me. So that's basically what a lot of programming is aimed at. And then there's multiple different ways that they can accomplish that. And then that is exponentially, like that can be split off and split off and split off exponentially. So that's just the kind of first kind of split that she was just describing there. But then a split can come off that split, come off that split, come off that split, and it just keeps going. Depending if the person is in an unbearable situation that they can't escape.
Casey Winterburn, I'm familiar with her. In fact, I've had a few conversations with her. And she has certainly been severely abused, my word. I mean, and it's so true, I don't quite know, yeah, where to start what I want to say, but it's true what you say, that there are very, very few African survivors that are speaking up. I've spoken to a number of them behind the scenes, but very few are willing to actually, at this point, speak up publicly. They are still severely under attack, scrutinized to the hilt. Beverly Rhodes would be considered one of South Africa's survivors, because she was, as I've said before, the ex-president, the ex-psychic to our ex-presidents, in especially the apartheid era. So knew a lot of information and had a lot of stuff go on, and then was pretty much exiled out of the country in 1999. So there is definitely a lot of that. And these survivors really go to extreme. They are extremely abused, the ones I've spoken to. Casey is originally from Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe. And I do believe, in fact, her father was involved with the Zulu Scouts. And now the Zulu Scouts are the special forces there. And they were like the elite, like the Green Berets and more. And I mean, a lot of the Green Berets actually came to Rhodesia then to train with the Zulu Scouts. And these guys are well known for their witchcraft and working with witch doctors and stuff. And they would often come back, and I'm not saying him, I'm just saying this is what I know about them. Like with the skulls of these guys, that they would obviously, the terrorists, because of course we had this horrific time. And I mean, I see how, there's so much I want to say. I see how that whole apartheid, British colonialism, owning the African people and owning the people of this continent has played so hectically into that story as well. And it's interestingly enough, Casey will say that there was never ever an African person that hurt her. It was only ever European people, and one of them was Ratzinger and the Queen. They were there pretty often. and the abuse was very extreme. And in fact, she was the one that alerted me to how the mining tunnels get used to traffic kids. That was the first time I heard about that. And in fact, in one of her
Mhm.
books, I think it's TikTok, she has a picture of this little kid that's being drowned. You just see him being dunked in the water. And that was her father drowning one of her few little friends she was allowed to have because she asked what would happen to the kids in the cages if the water came. And he pretty much then took her friend and did that and said, that's what happens. So the programming, I mean, we talk about that prenatal programming. She was certainly one of those who had that to an extreme degree. And that is why I really want to back you up when I say to you, when you said rather, for people to read her books, because she really does. I think if anyone's understands DID, she does. And I also know that through my conversations with her. And the way she's explained that there is actually quite amazing. The way she's put that. It's a really succinct way of understanding that, right? I'm glad you
Mhm.
brought that up. I'm glad you actually read that. It's really cool.
Yeah, I hope she writes some more because she's got a lot to offer, and I learned a lot from her books. And something else interesting about her books is that she has all these kind of almost like police sketches in the back of perpetrators. And I just thought, you know, with the way that people could do like use police sketch technology or like hypnosis to like recall actual images of people and stuff, because I thought it was really cool that that was in the book, and that that's just an option for other people to maybe think about as maybe a way to be able to get out some of these, get some stuff out of the subconscious, because yeah, it's all in there, right? But they can do certain types of post hypnotic suggestions to like not remember faces and stuff. Like a lot of people that are used in child pornography and stuff, like they have actual programming to not remember faces. And so like a lot of times when people have um dream memories and stuff, like the faces will be blurred out, almost like when you like on a photograph when they blur it out, like they'll actually dream like that because of the post hypnotic suggestion. And that's actually a clue, if people have dreams like that where they can't see the faces, that there might be something like that in the subconscious where there's a
Right.
suggestion not to. And so I just thought it was really cool that she included that in the book as well. So yeah, she's I really hope she writes some more. I feel like I don't want to talk about her too much because she's not here, but like I wish she would share more what she knows. Whether, I don't know if she would ever do an interview or if she would write more or anything, but like she's got so much to share and offer. Like I just really wanted to bring attention to her because I don't know if she's getting a lot of getting noticed. And she's definitely really, yeah, just has a sorry, I'm just like blabbing, but yeah, she's a lot to offer.
No,
So
I
I hope
think
she writes some
I,
more.
I really, I'm so with you on that, and we're going to post the links to her books on Amazon, and
Okay.
absolutely encourage people because it so goes hand in hand with what we're talking about. She has a very good grasp on that. So, I mean, it's great to get her books and to read them, definitely.
Yeah, and it's nice to support survivors too, because a lot of them, obviously can't just work a regular job. And so, like, when it's the amount of work for somebody to write a book is a huge. And so, if there's any way to support people by buying their books, it really is something you can do. Because a lot of people are like, "Oh, what can I do?" Like, I'm not a counselor, I'm not this, and I'm like, you know what, you can buy somebody's book, you can gift that book to somebody else, you can read it, you can tell people about it, and like just that actually is something that anybody can do, and it actually really makes a difference. And it even just helps getting it up, like leaving a comment on the algorithm or something. It's just something anybody can do to help survivors that are trying. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
And just buying their book is helping them because we know how these survivors are attacked, right? I mean, the first thing that gets taken away from them when they start speaking up is their resources get frozen in whichever way they can. And oftentimes there are attempts on their lives and on the families. And They literally live a nightmare life. So I think it's so important to actually support them and buy a copy of their book,
And
because
read the
that's how,
books.
yeah, and read, definitely read
Yeah.
them, because that's their story. It's how we support them. It's how we understand. It's how we get to know them.
They did the work to tell their story, and it's like it's like somebody out in the universe has to receive it. And I feel like that's why I want to read everybody's books, because I just know it matters, like in the quantum field, that somebody actually took it into their consciousness and heard the story. Because it's like, I remember taking semiotics in university, like, and you know, it's like the sign has to be received, right, for a full circle of communication. So these people, it's like they've done so much spiritually to like actually get the story, like to remember the story, get it out of themselves, put it in a book, put it out to the universe. Like it's like anybody that's out there that can actually catch it and receive it and like listen to it and hear it and put it
Mm,
over their consciousness and like receive the story. Like I think it matters on the quantum field that people do that. So I think every time that somebody reads a survivor's book, it's like the truth has been told and the truth has actually been received and heard. And so I just
absolutely.
think it's really important to read survivors' books. And there's kind of a range of books. Like some are, I wouldn't recommend because you'll get PTSD just from reading them if you start. Like I know which ones are like I kind of would recommend depending on, you know, where people are at. But like there's a lot of books that you can read just to learn about this stuff without having to read really, really graphic stories. And then there's other books that are just like putting it all in there. So it's like, you know, there's something that everybody could read to help this truth be revealed, because I really feel this is the most important thing happening on the planet. I feel like everything else is a symptom of this, and that you're just going to be like basically looking at the effect of this and trying to focus your attention on that instead of the cause, because all the stuff that's happening in the world, it's programmed into the subconscious mind of children. And so that's why they do satanic ritual abuse. That's why they have MK Ultra program. Like that is the plane of effects, is the subconscious mind, and it's the programming of children so that it emerges later in life what they've programmed in to people to come out into society. So like if you just kind of trying to fight stuff when it's already coming out, it's not really going to be as effective as exposing how it's coming into this dimension. So that's why I'm really passionate to like read and educate and get other people to um understand this and also talk about it. And like I've said before in other podcasts, like it's actually already out, but there's kind of just a bit of a time delay because people have to actually take the information into themselves. So it takes time to read, it takes time to listen to podcasts, it takes time to integrate all this information, because it'll really change your worldview. Because when I started reading this stuff, it's almost like sci-fi. Like I was just like, I can't believe the human mind can even do this, and that people saying they're human would even do this. You know, I just like really, it takes a while to actually be able to comprehend what's happening. But then once you start to integrate this into your worldview, it really changes your perception of everything happening around you. And the world actually makes a lot more sense once you start to
Yeah.
understand how ritual abuse is being used on a mass scale.
If we look at, and the thought occurred to me this morning, if we're just looking at the amount of survivors that are coming, that are starting to speak up now, and we're noticing that most of them are around about the 50-year-old age group, right? Give or take a couple of years either way. Isn't it interesting then that these kids, because they were all kids once, were all products of Satanists, basically? So if we think about how many thousands of survivors are starting to speak out now, they are all products of other survivors who are not speaking out, really. Because if we look at the older survivor generations, few of them are speaking out. There's a few. I mean, Penny Bradley's one, Juliet Engel is another. Those are the ladies I know that are in their 60s and 70s speaking out. And I know there's a few others as well. But I know that I do believe, gosh, is it Penny or Julie? I can't remember one of them. Juliet. I think it might be Juliet, who spoke, Dr. Juliet Engel, who mentioned that in her group there was 1,000 kids. She's the only one that has survived. She's the only one still alive. I mean, think about that. Each and every one of those people have had some kind of an offspring or some kind of an effect, right? This is generational. So if we take all of that together, Jaymee, that is a huge amount of abuse and vampirism that's been occurring.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, quite frankly, is that everyone right now, we not everyone, sorry, the rulers of this planet, all vampires. That's exactly what they are. It's vampirism, and they recreate themselves, they recycle themselves all the time. That's why there's
Mm-hmm.
so many of them look the same. Beverly and I are going to be doing a show on that soon as well. That's why they
Mm-hmm.
kind of look the same and have similar markings. And when you put photographs over, you can literally see some of them are, it's the same
Oh
person
yeah.
that's been recycled. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy the amount of psychological, emotional, spiritual, physical torture that humanity has endured. It's
Yeah, absolutely.
phenomenal that we can
Absolutely.
still even breathe. So it's incredible that these people, the survivors, are speaking up. And I got to tell you, each and every one of them, I have the utmost respect for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being abused like that doesn't always make you the nicest person, right? Because you're so wounded very often. So there's a lot of unhealed wounds that are projected. But I think we have to, as non-survivors in this arena, we need to be aware of that as well and not react to all of these things, because when we understand where a lot of this behavior is coming from, we can be part of the healing process by just saying, hey, talk to me. I understand. Something's up. Can I help you? You might get someone tell you F you and what have you, and you, okay, fine. Then that's all you can do. But you might just touch someone's heart, right? And just by an acknowledgement. There's so much noise out there right now. And more children are being traumatized. More and more animals are being traumatized. We're seeing more and more products of this. But by the same token, it's not all negative. You know, as much as what there's crap going on, there's also a lot of amazing stuff. So I'm not being a prophet of gloom at all here. You all know me, I'm a healer. I look for everything that is amazing and how we can flip this nest, but we have to be aware of it. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are, just from the research you've done, etc., over the years and where we are right now, and sort of seeing what I've said in terms of the ancestral Luciferianism that's been on
Mm-hmm.
this planet. I mean, how do you see that changing? What do you see? And obviously you see a lot of symptoms in the kids as well, you know, that are playing themselves out. So how do you see that changing?
Well, it's okay, how can I explain this? It kind of gets into some weird topics about like time and quantum stuff because like everything is connected and time is not actually linear. So even though we have generations and each generation is connected to each one, it's not like separate in a line. It's like it's each one. And then so healing goes forward and back as well, like through time. And so one example, like I like to watch that show Forensic Files because they go back and they get these cold cases where before they had DNA technology or all this new forensic technology, and they go back with the cold cases and they bust people like 30-40 years after a murder. And it's so weird because when they go back, a lot of times that same person, even though the first murder wasn't planned, like they just ended up killing their girlfriend in a fight or something, because they had got away with it the first time, the next time they got in a fight with their new girlfriend or their new wife, they actually did the murder in the exact same way because they were like, oh, I did it this way last time and completely got away with it. And then when the cold case people would take that information and then because they had new like DNA and stuff like that, they go back and they would like double bust people, retroactively. And the fact that they had repeated it gave them all the clues to go back and bust the original murder, which just gives me like this really divine sense of justice, because that person thought that because time had passed, that they weren't going to receive the consequence, but they didn't know that in the future there would be technology that would retroactively go back. And so to connect that to ritual abuse, like a really good book is Russ Dizdor's The Black Awakening, because he really talks about, you know, I think he would say there's like, we're maybe in the 5th generation of industrialized like MK Ultra ritual abuse. Even though it goes back to the beginning of time, there's always been people that knew how to leverage trauma to affect the mind and create slaves. But like when it started to be done on an industrial scale, kind of post World War II, you know, we're going on the 5th generation of people now. And so the way that I see things is the internet really changed a lot, because one of the ways that people that perform satanic ritual abuse get a lot of their power was by withholding information from the victims of the abuse. So their worldview was completely contained by the Satanists. Whereas now with the internet, you know, there's so many people telling their story and giving information, and because these people aren't original, they use the same templates and the same programs. And so when people are researching and it's the same thing in them, it's like it has a quantum effect, like, I don't know, I guess kind of like 100 Monkeys effect or something, where, you know, they can't keep people isolated. Like with looking at psychopathic abuse or cult abuse or anything like that, like isolation is key and compartmentalization is key. And I did a podcast with James Martinez where he was saying that like the way that our compartmentalized society is set up is based on the model of child abuse and compartmentalization, because power always comes from, like, dark power always comes from division, separation, and compartmentalization, whether that's in a mind or whether that's in society. And now that society is, you know, merging together, those lines aren't, like, things aren't kept in separate, you know, compartments. There's just so much information that it has an exponential ability to heal, because people don't have to do it on their own. Like, there's tons of books out there now. There's tons of survivors telling stories. And so even retroactively, when a young person, like when people are coming out now younger, and I even know a few younger people, not many, but there's a few people that have gotten memories like in their early 20s, which isn't the norm, but it is happening. And then, like you said, there's kind of a cohort of like 50-year-olds right now. And then, you know, there's still people alive that you know, the internet wasn't around when they were in their 50s. And so now I think I actually know some older survivors that are actually in their 70s that have got memories back and are like trying to heal now because of all the younger people that have come forward. It's like so it kind of has this like quantum effect through time.
Absolutely. So because we're all connected. So as the healing occurs, and especially the generational, you know, as the person in the center, or let's say one person will often choose healing, whether it's something like this or something less extreme. And then that healing will then filter into all the family members, actually, and also generationally, globally, sorry, not just generationally. And that's amazing, because as you say, now the older survivors are starting to wake up as well, you know, and I wonder how many, wow, I wonder how many actually, if we think how many of the baby boomers, right? Shame. How many of those old people were, well, I mean, it really is, because this really started after the Second World War. So these would have been babies born somewhere in the 40s, right? As well, 40s, 50s, right, around about there, that this stuff would have started. So this is kind of like the or the first generation, really, where they would have done this, you know, where they would have imposed these atrocities on these people. That's crazy.
Sorry, I was trying to find a book here. It's called Nikola Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. And the reason I had pulled that book out is because Julia Engels had done a show with Emma about star forts. And I remember reading about star forts in this book. It's called Nikola Tesla and the Cabbage Patch Kids. But it wasn't just about the star forts. It was about this where did all these babies come from during the baby boom? Because it actually doesn't make sense. And when you look at like the orphan trains, and I know like even in my family, like people are like, oh yeah, grandpa was just on the farm and they adopted, and it's like, who hasn't, we all have a story like that in our family where we're like, oh, these people just appeared into the family line and we're like on the farm, and we don't really question it. But if you look back at the history, like you can tell that after World War II, they actually were starting these huge cloning programs. And
Yeah.
to go even fringier, if you go into like Montauk and the time travel, they were actually like, and with artificial intelligence, and I might lose some people here, but they actually have like time traveling AI in quantum computers, which is traveling between dimensions and through time. And they can actually bring back DNA from the past.
Mhm.
So they've actually gone back and got like Nazi soldier DNA and cloned it into the future. And so it's just a whole nother level, and it gets really complex trying to understand MK Ultra and clones and split consciousness in one, or like in multiple, one consciousness, one DNA in multiple bodies, because when the consciousness can be pulled into different clone bodies, they can do programming, one alter in one clone body being programmed and then transferred back to another body that doesn't remember because it's a dissociative identity in a clone body. It starts to get really mind-blowing to try and understand all this stuff. But I don't know if I'm losing people there, but
No, totally. We've actually no, not at all. We've spoken about the Cabbage Patch Kids and stuff at length as well. And yeah, definitely some kind of a cloning process that they've done, growing them. And then what I did an interview with a guy who was pretty much high up in the satanic cult, and what he would say, because the alchemists would make these cabbage patch apparitions, whatever they were, right? And then they would merge them with the Raphael spirits, souls. So in other words, the Raphael that are too low vibrating to get their own bodies, right? To manifest and create their own body, right? So they therefore wait. And that's why every time, and when you look at these places where this Cabbage Patch hospitals and stuff where these babies are being born, at a certain time, ting, someone gets to name them as well. And there's a lot to be said for the merging of the spirit and that baby at whatever, however they do it. God only knows. But then also underground from a lot of these places, that particular one we watched, there's like these gold mines and stuff. There's a lot of mining, underground mining facilities that go on there. So they then are using a lot of these cloned kids, these literally call them the Cabbage Patch Kids, as slaves. And it's so true because when you're looking at the turn of the century, Tartaria, right? Even if you're watching that whole Tartaria thing, they were having these baby auctions, or not baby auctions, but these baby fairs. And you
you
could
could order
literally
them in
buy
the
the
mail
baby.
too. You could order a
Yes.
baby.
And then you see the postcards and stuff they were sending, and all of these postcards, there was beehives and all sorts of symbolism on it. These hats, top hats, everything to do with these babies. And all of that was symbolism as to where they were coming from, what lineage they were from, of the Masons, what they were created from, what DNA was in there. And yeah, they were being sold, and absolutely that's what repopulated the earth. There's no doubt in my mind about that, because suddenly the orphan trains at the turn of the century, going 18th to 19th century, Ireland, Australia, everywhere. The whole, I mean, these massive cities that were empty, and 30 years later, suddenly there's people in there. How did they just arrive? So yeah, it's very strange, because then we can see when we're looking back then as to how the earth was being populated with the initial beings, humans. Were they even human? I don't know. We've got to look at these things. I mean, I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm certainly no expert in that area, but I certainly have a nose for bullshit. And there's bullshit there. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I remember even being a kid when everybody's like, "Oh, we don't really know the history." I'm like, "How?" I'm like, "There's a chain of humans. Like, like everybody had a parent. Like, how did?" It's like the game telephone, right? Like where the message gets passed. Like I remember being a kid being like, "How do adults not know world history? Like, like it's lost. That just never like sat right with me as a kid. I knew that was BS too. I'm like that it would be impossible. There had to be a break somewhere, and this is like the inside of a dissociative mind when there's a split or a fracture. And so like
Right.
humanity is like split off, and whether that's split off like in a timeline or split off in our consciousness or split off from our history, like there's definitely been split offs. And so it's really weird, but ritual abuse and dissociative identity disorder, it kind of like there's a micro and a macro, and it's like actually so relevant to even what's happening like interdimensionally, interstellarly, what's happening like to all of humanity, how humanity's fractured from itself, like how our internal mind, how we can't access our subconscious all the time. Like it's based, and then they use that model of abuse to create things like
Yes.
bureaucracies, hierarchies,
Yes.
secret this,
Absolutely.
secret that. And it's like that, but they've done that even with
Military.
our own history, right? And we're all so like we're all dissociative from reality, and it's because of trauma. And so we kind of live in a trauma matrix where as soon as we come in, there's trauma applied. And like I believe we've all been ritually abused, like every human coming into this dimension experiencing abuse, which is dissociating them from reality. And it's set up that way, right? And then the extreme of
Yeah.
that is the people that are put through the actual programs before their mind can form to put compartments in, and they've really figured out how to do this. It's actually not very hard to do. It's just that most people wouldn't do it. So like evil says, can I do this? And good says, should I do this? And so is if you don't care if you should and you can, then there's a power differential, right? Whereas most people would say, well, if I have to harm a child to win a fight, I'm kind of a loser. I don't really want to win if I have to be a loser to win, right? Whereas somebody else might say, hey, whatever works, and they're just outcome based, right? And so, that's just the difference in, it's not that people couldn't do this, it's just that most people wouldn't want to do it, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's so crazy, when you talk like that as well. And as you say, for me, what you said right at the end, outcome based. That's exactly what they are trying to reach, is the highest outcome for themselves. They have an idea of how things can work. I have no doubt, because they've studied the laws of the universe inside out, upside down. We understand the original fallen ones are obviously have all the original God's technology and awareness, consciousness, understanding, and all of that has been inverted. We know that. And it just makes me wonder, how far does this go? You know what I'm saying? Is like, how far does this go? I can't
I
help
don't.
but wonder, because there seems like no end. Every part of this has been corrupted. Every part of what they possibly could corrupt has been corrupted. So it
Yeah,
really is, for me, the only thing that's going to change this, Jamie, is us waking up to what's
yeah,
really going on. I
yeah.
mean,
And
that's
you can't like make a psychopath care or have a conscience, but there is something called philosophical morality or rational compassion where, if you reason out things, you can comprehend intellectually why something is right and good and true, even if you don't actually care or feel empathy. So that's like
yeah,
maybe the closest we could expect people's consciousness to go up. And the thing about Satanists is like they don't ever question their desires. Like it's, and you see this with like narcissists and psychopaths too. Like it's like if they want something, their mind is just centered on getting what they want. They don't actually question why they want something, or like where that want comes from, or if that's what they want to want. Like it's like the urge is like need, urge, satisfaction, right? Like there's not that in between where they're like questioning why would somebody be a pedophile, why would somebody be a sadist. Like they don't actually question that. Like it's, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't
Yeah,
know.
you
I
hit,
like it's
you
just
hit,
like that to me is like the most mind-blowing thing, is how somebody can basically be like the most degenerate and do the easiest thing, which is harm a child, but then in their own mind feel as though they are superior in their inferiority. And like even though they have a certain type of intelligence, like not having the intelligence to actually see that and have insight into that being like a deceptive mindset, right? Just because it's outcome based, and it has there is a power you can get from it, which is what they value. But it's like, even like, why not question your values, right? Like and at this point, there's been people that have had control on this planet for so long. Like a lot of the things they're trying to control are unnecessary, right? Like it's almost like when they would go and colonize countries and then realize they're just babysitting a bunch of people and have to provide services. At some point they just give it back, right? Like they say, like, why are we trying to control this? It's like just more of a burden, like, you know what I mean? And so I think a lot of the things that, you know, people in the reptilian brain have been grasping for control over actually becomes more work for them, and it's not actually having the outcome, like something they don't need to control, and that actually controlling it is causing other consequences that aren't desirable. So it kind of like the sake control for the sake of control becomes ridiculous at some point, right? So I don't know.
it's so true. Control for the sake of control, because they have no idea what where they would be if they weren't in control. That's not even part of the imagination, right? And
Right.
it's, you know, it's really, again, it sort of takes me back to that whole monarch programming, where the whole empathy gene, the compassion, the kindness is killed off at a very, very early age.
Well,
So,
it's inverted.
yeah, totally. And and then, I mean, if we think of the rituals at the age of 12, they would then do their first ritual. I know some of the boys, girls, I'm not sure. I know this is the boys, the hierarchy boys, where they do their first ritual where they, in their conscious mind, um, take a life and cannibalize. That's the first act of conscious, what do they call it? Blasphemy? Is it called blasphemy where you, is
Or
that,
just using their will to do things of their own choice instead of under mind control is,
yeah.
yeah, yes, you
But,
say.
but there's a word they have for that. Exactly. And then, of course, they've crossed that line. And now, ooh, now you're in trouble. You know, now you the worst. And of course, all of that afterwards is about the manipulation, blackmail, torture, fear porn, all the time. And, you know, obviously, and I'm sure you'd agree with that. The more these guys hurt innocence, whether it's children, whether it's animals, whether it's plants and insects, whether it's their wives or their workers, whatever it really is a projection of their own depth of pain and despair, or at their own loss of innocence. Something in them is so wounded that that's what they
Mm-hmm.
have to project onto
Mm-hmm.
another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, you know, as the healing begins, so that will be less and less. It's like the whole 100 monkey syndrome, right? The more people who wake up to this, and it doesn't have to be the abusers, they're the last to wake up, but just people in general. And that's why it's so important that people get to see these types of shows. Just the consciousness, the click. It's like switching on a little torch somewhere in the universe, that shining light. That's what we need. That's what we need. That's our weapon. Our weapon is our light. That's what we need. We're not going to beat these guys any other way. Their technology is way superior to anything we could whip up. The only thing we have is love and our heart consciousness. That's what we
which
have.
is actually superior, and it's
Totally.
actually the one thing that like AI can't understand. Psychopaths
Exactly.
can only mimic, like it's, and love is, it's not, you can't put a numerical value on it. Like it like defies a bunch of physical laws. It's like it's it is superior to anything that can be created. And even people like Aleister Crowley will be the first person to tell you that, right? And so that's why the Satanists are always trying to harness and invert love, because they know it's actually way more powerful than anything that can be calculated. And I just wanted to go back
Totally.
to when people want to harm children, like just one way to think about it is, it goes back to this, like when you're 13 and you believe you're doing stuff of your own free will, which you're really not. Your brain's not fully developed. You've been under coercion and duress and all these other things to that's not really your will. You're just convinced that it is at that point, right? And then you believe that. But when you go back to harming children, it's because, so people hate their own inner child because children are egocentric and believe they have agency when they don't. So like even when people's parents are getting divorced, like the kid thinks it's because of them, or like, you know what I mean? Or if a child is abused, there's a part of them, and they know this, they do it on purpose. This is why they abuse children. Like I always say, when you look at somewhere like the Catholic Church or something, it's not just because the priests are all perverts. It's like, no, it's a strategic way to create an empire of slaves. Like it has a very deliberate effect on people when you do it. And so when people are abused, especially like sexually abused or something, they believe it's their fault. Like it's a very normal, children internalize and identify with it, and then they believe they have agency even though they didn't. And the abuser will always convince the person, like, you came here, you wanted it or whatever, right? Like you had agency, you did it also, you know what I mean? And so when the child believes that, um they hate themselves, and they also, not only do they take responsibility for things they didn't actually have power over, they also believe they could have done things that they didn't do. So they're like, I could have stopped it, I should have done this, I should have done that, even though they couldn't. They were obviously like in fight or flight, or like they didn't actually have the power to overpower an adult. But they have all these false beliefs which make them hate themselves. And then when that gets dissociative and they hate their own inner child because they blame themselves, then like when they externalize and project that onto an external other child, they can then take it out on that child because they believe that that child is also responsible, even though they're not. It's all projection, right? So it's all
Totally.
projection. So that's why it's so important to like work through these things, because everything that's repressed get projected, right? And so when people, that's also why they make children be complicit in abuse or blasphemy or something like that, because if the person believes that they're evil, they project that everyone else is evil too, and they can't trust anybody else, and everybody else is out to get them. And because it's all projection, right? So projection is like a tool that's really, really used, I mean, on all of us, but it's something that they know how to invert.
Totally. Exactly. And the thing is, as I so often say, these guys are masters of understanding how energy works. So they work through so many different levels and dimensions. And, there's so much spiritual torture, literally, that goes on. And this poor child does not know whether it's coming or going. And boom, before you know it, it's gone. The person is gone. They've kind of over to the dark side. And that's like with the 12-year-old rituals. And then we wonder why we governed by so many psychopaths, because that's exactly, it's how the torture has continued. And,
Mm-hmm.
they've, as you say, they're very strategic in the way they do that. They first start getting the kids to hurt animals, and to start being cruel, start playing one up against each other in the family. They'll create all sorts of what we've spoken about before as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sibling rivalries in the family. And then it just gets progressively worse after that, until we have this world of division and conquer. Who can you trust? Absolutely no one. And least of all yourself, right? If you've been a person that has been a product of this extreme abuse, because you've never ever known what it feels like to be able to trust someone who can have your back, or who can keep you safe, or who can keep the monsters from the door, right? Which is the normal way a child should grow up. A child should grow up believing and knowing their parents protect them, and that you are the most important thing in your parents' life. A child needs to believe that, because that is their formation of their identity. So of course, when they get traumatized, as you say, you know, they little become egocentric. Of course, their world revolves around them. They've just been in the womb on their own for 9 months, for God's sake. Who else was there except them? Their needs need to be met. And the more a child's needs are met in a consistent and a systematic way, where they feel safe, they feel they don't have to scream for their food or fight each other for cereal in the morning on the breakfast table or whatever it is, or hide. One thing Casey said, which was actually very, very, very interesting to me, and yeah, it was one conversation. I was just thinking about it, and she especially spoke about running to your father. She said, normal is running to your father when you see him, to greet him and hug him. What would you call when you see your father and you just run away instead of running
Well,
to
it's the
him? Right,
protector inverted to the predator is like that
exactly,
is against nature, right? Like that
exactly,
again is so
exactly.
traumatic.
So of course, then, you know, when the kids lose their foundation, they are so terrified. And that's why, of course, they're going to use them for Dreno and stuff, because their fear levels are so much higher, and they have no control over where their imaginations can take them. And that's very sad. It really hurts my heart to think about what these poor children have been through.
Yeah, and none of it would work without inverting like the natural order. Like it's like this is it's the person's own parents doing this abuse to them. It's the fact
Yeah.
that it's their parents that makes it so effective, or people that are in a parental, position, like a priest, or like there. And I'm not just picking on Catholic. Like there's a lot of different groups, including government, including militaries, including uh all the churches, including like there's a lot of groups, the mafia, like bikers. There's a lot of groups that have learned this technology and use it for multiple different agendas. But I mean, it used to be a little more controlled, but I mean, people have paid a lot of money to learn how to do this. Like it's really, expanded the amount of people that actually understand this and how to do it. Something I just wanted to touch on when you were talking about the little children inside, like it's like we have to always remember that narcissists and psychopaths are little children inside. Like they are 5 years old emotionally. And so when we're dealing with these abusers and these psychopaths and the pedophiles, it's like knowing that they are actually 5 years old as well. And that is actually why they're pedophiles, because they're emotionally attracted to an externalization of their own internal state and where they're frozen in time. And so I just think that's really important to keep in mind. Like when we're looking
Absolutely.
at these people on the world stage, it's like, okay, that
Yeah,
might look like an old man's body, but that is like a little 5-year-old in there, and that is so connected
exactly.
to what's happening.
And that's the scary part, because absolutely the emotions get stunted, obviously, when they are not nurtured. So they're like these dwarf, malformed little. Imagine that, if you want to put it into a physical picture, as emotions should flow and grow. Call it like a tree, for example. They are now contorted and bonsai and what have you, forming in all different places. And it's so true that. And when those emotions get stunted, they can't think beyond that. So they are angry, because think about a 5-year-old child who's not heard.
Temper
Angry,
tantrums.
frustrated, tantrums one after the other, already at the stage where it can go around hurting other things, etc. And now this emotional ball is in the body of a fully grown man who has the ability to pick up the phone and decide to take a country out, or the leader of a country, or a person out, or whatever, or make decisions based on other people's lives. Absolutely. So it's
Mhm.
the unhealed wound that never heals, and it just festers all the time, and it gets bigger and bigger, and it's gross. Yeah. And that's
Yeah, it's
unfortunately where we are.
I just find it so, I mean, like sometimes I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I can't believe like how messed up the world is in my lifetime, from when I was a kid and like assuming what I would be growing up into, like from the 80s, and then like what we're actually dealing with as humanity right now, like where we're literally being run by satanic pedophiles, literally it's like just so out of a move, like it's almost surreal,
Mm,
the level of ridiculousness that as a race that like we would even let this happen. And like
exactly.
now at least we're aware of it, but there's still so much work to do to like overcome it. But it's like I just can't believe that like this is even what we are actually dealing with. Like it's so, like the fact that we have let these little boys in old man bodies take over the planet. It is like, out of everybody that could have taken over, it's like, how is this happening, like it's
Yeah,
really crazy.
absolutely. Well, it's through, I mean, disconnection. The level of deception is huge. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's for us to wake up and see the truth. That's really what we need to be doing, and becoming spiritually super fit. That's for
Well,
sure.
so much
So,
is just by default, right? Like they're the ones who took the power and nobody actually fought them for it. Like a lot of abuse and Satanism, it's by default. Like like so much of it's just like you didn't even think to, go and claim what's yours, or to just say no, or you know what I mean? So like people now, they're at least being aware that they have a choice and that they can actually, reclaim some things and do some things. But before, it was like they just never questioned that the order, right? And it's like a lot of it's default, and a lot of it's based on lies. And if you actually identify the lie and call it out and say, hey, that's a lie, then like that power was actually all an illusion. It's like it's not even real, we just think it is. And because we're not even aware of it, that's why they have it, you know what I mean? So it's like,
exactly. You try telling Rockefeller his power is all an illusion, right? I
who's
mean,
ever fought him on it though? Like we didn't even
yeah,
know who that
exactly.
was until 15 years ago. The name, people are like, who are these people, like, and they've been
Exactly.
for generations unquestioned, you know what I mean? Or like the royal families, like just nobody's questioned, like, why is this set up this way? It's like, so
We don't know why, well, I mean, we do know why, because it's absolutely set up in line with their pyramid or hierarchy scheme. Absolutely. Look at the military, you look at everything, the school system, everything. Hospitals. We spoke about the dividing, taking the child away from the mother, and absolutely. I mean, from I think the 60s, when the Rockefellers started bringing in this whole feminist movement as well, separating mothers from their kids and gaining control. And now we see the results thereof, right? Because this has really been the results thereof, hasn't it? So it's super interesting. But yay, I mean, it's amazing. What a time to be alive. We get to be part of the wave of change. So for me, that's amazing. I love that. I love that idea.
yeah,
Although
it's
it's
that danger opportunity, right? Like we actually are there now, which is like, at least things are getting shaken up, because I think for a long
Mm,
time nobody questioned anything. Like they just watched the news and did what the doctor said and took the pill, and like nobody,
and I think
questioned.
there's a large amount still doing that. Let's
Right.
not kid each other or ourselves there. But I think definitely, again, I say this a lot. Going back to 2020, um, 5.5 years ago, my cat found, don't catch the lizard. Just found a little lizard. I hope the lizard gets away.
Oh.
Um, in 2020, really, The Aquarius Rising was one of the first disclosure channels. I remember there was few of us around then. And if we look now, there is so many channels. Youngsters waking up and actually speaking about stuff like this. And I love that, although it does create a lot of noise. There's obviously a lot of people out there who are controlled opposition, who are really there to stop this formation moving forward, um, and who are pretending to be sweeter than sweet, and we've got to be so discerning, because the minute we don't, I don't know, the minute we let our guard down about this, yeah, we crumble. There's a lot of nonsense out there. And this
I
is
think
really,
it all gets worked out eventually. Like that's why I don't believe in censorship. Like I'm like, no,
yeah,
all stuff bad happens from pieces missing,
exactly.
compartmentalization. Like I'm all about open source, no censorship, like even for stuff I don't like. Like I think,
I agree.
I say let NAMBLA have a web page. Like I want to be able to go and read what they are thinking and their mandates. And like I don't believe in censoring that. Like I think if it was public and we could see it and we could understand it, and then we could have an opportunity to affect it because it's not hidden. We know what it is. We know where it is. We know who they are. Like I don't believe in any type of censorship. And I think even people that are coming out, like I think the fact that they are out, like they're in, like it's gonna get sifted, it's gonna get all like
Yeah,
eventually it all comes out. Like it's the same with psychopaths and narcissists. Like they can wear the mask for a while, but the longer you're around them, it's like it just slips. You can't actually
yeah,
hold it there all the time, and the more you're putting yourself out there, like it's just a matter of time until the truth is revealed always. And like that's happening on such a big scale right now. It's like, yeah, there's
right.
still a lot of kinks to get worked out, but like I have full confidence that they're all getting worked out. Like it's
No,
every
I
person
agree.
will out themselves, and they out themselves. It's actually really funny to watch sometimes. Like,
I
um,
agree.
you
I
know,
totally agree. And the truth always stands. The bullshit
exactly.
will fall. Truth always, always, always stands. And we must never forget that. And, if our heart is in the right place and our intentions are in the right place, truth finds us, and the ones around us who are the fakesters, they will reveal themselves. That's my point. We don't have to go into combat with anyone or anything. Truth, love, heart chakra is your medicine. That's what it is.
You
And
know what
love
I
and truth are certainly not pushovers. There's nothing weak about love. Love is, oh boy, is it potent. It has a vibration that dissolves anything, anything. And what's important to recognize as well is that a lot of people, I think, are confused about what that means. In my opinion, it's like if you are protected by your frequency, in other words, God, your creator, your frequency, whatever, it's something that comes from within you. It's a vibrational thing. And it comes in harmony with being sovereign, having love and respect for each other, for nature. And it's like nature takes care of you when that happens. It's almost like, let's say someone is now going to go for you. The way nature will take care of you, that guy will have 4 flat tires on the way to you without you even knowing it. That's how it kind of happens.
well,
We don't have to go out and kill and maim and hurt in the name of love. That's not love. We have to understand that. And we have to understand love works from the heart and the brain. And when they work together, that's when you know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, who to do it with. It's like synchronicity becomes the order of the day, and you are not in the face of danger.
I
That's
was
how.
just gonna say the word congruency is so key, right? Like if
Yeah,
you're in like, and this is like Mark Passio talks about this, like not being in duality with yourself. And that's why they're always trying to make you in duality with yourself, whether it's hating your
exactly.
body or looking outside of yourself all the time, because then you can't be congruent. And then it's like martial arts, right? Like you're already like on an unstable base, so you can be influenced, right? Where if you're always
Exactly.
congruent, like you can walk away from a job, you can walk away from a relationship, you can just like you actually stay true to who you are, like, and your true intentions, and you actually will act on them even at like when it's risky, and or like, you know, there's no guarantee, but you're willing to just like be principle based person. That's where that comes from, the protection, right? Because you are, it's able to come to you because of your congruency. And the last thing I just wanted to say was something I think is really cool about even people that are trying to infiltrate or stuff, like they're still getting exposed to a bunch of like sincere people who like are actually like going to affect them too. And, you know, a lot of these Satanists who think they're better than everybody only reinforce their own delusions within their own echo chambers and their own, you know, societies where they're only around people that have the same mindset of them. They weren't listening to like a bunch of podcasters or people in different, you know, social classes or different, you know, cultural groups. They were just, you know, like the baby boomers just had the TV told to them it's a one-way street where they're right. Whereas now, you know, somebody like even, you know, Justin Trudeau can like Google and see what like people are saying about him. And like some of these people are, you know, just like teenagers, and they're way smarter than him, putting out podcasts about him and stuff. And like, I don't feel like they get to escape that and keep themselves in a bubble anymore. Like they're getting exposed to like the mirror of what people actually think about them. They can't actually stay in their kind of perfect delusion, like a
Exactly.
narcissistic low insight, right? Like they're actually exposed to, and especially when people try to infiltrate and go around the actual true people doing it, like it actually is affecting them as well. So like it's, you know what I mean? It's like, I
For
don't know.
sure.
There is like God works in mysterious ways, and it all can be used for good. It really can. And it's like, you know, just there's something really interesting happening on the planet of there's the separation just can't stay anymore. Not with the internet, not with the communication, not with the consciousness rising, not with the amount of people that can know what's going on at the planet and how fast they can know it. Like that's just something they've lost control of. And like, it's the greatest thing that we have is the communication right now.
I fully agree with that. Absolutely. And I agree, you know, when we all rise together, we rise. Really. Wow. Fantastic conversation again. Thank you. And always we always end up talking about amazing things. And again, there's so many rabbit holes that we're going to be diving down. You know, we touch on things pertaining to other topics as well. So look forward to touching base with you on that again next week. Um, well, before we round it off, I promise it's tea, okay?
Sound like Elmer Fudd or something.
Yeah, like you're right. So before we round off today's show, JV, is there anything you'd like to say just in closing? And where can people get hold of you this week? Any shows you're on?
Oh
Potties?
my
Potty
goodness. I did a
casting?
really good show with Sean McCann called I think it was called the fetishization of infantilization, which I really recommend people go and watch. It's actually I'm really proud of that one. It's something I really want to bring attention to. If you want to check that out, I did that this week. I also did one last week about Aileen Wuornos, which I really wanted to do one about her as well. But yeah, people can just Google Jaymee Jay. I actually I'm a really multifaceted podcaster. Like I'm not, I don't just talk about one thing. I have like a really whole bunch of different types of shows that I do. So I don't know, it's, if you want to check it out, it's a little bit different, but yeah, I think I just
What?
leave it there for today. I just you know, what I was just saying about the two-way street and like just the communication, like that is so key to survivors, right? Like there's so many survivors that have come forward, and like so many other people can look at their stories and read their books, and it's like this really is what's going to make all the barriers dissolve. Like this, like the dissociative barriers of society, like of different social groups, those are dissolving. And when those dissolves, like our consciousness is like going to be communicating in ways that aren't compartmentalized, and like information is key, right? Like all trauma-based mind control is based on dissociation of information. So like this is actually reversing right now. It just takes time. And that's why it's so important to like listen to survivors, read their books, listen to what they have to say. These are the most amazing people. Like they, you know, even though researching this stuff is so dark, like the light is the people that it didn't work on. Like that is the most amazing thing that's ever happened on planet Earth, is that there's these amazing people that have been put through ritual abuse and didn't become like their abusers. Like that is the absolute just
Yeah.
pinnacle of the human spirit and of the love energy. And these people embody that. And like just like we can learn so much from these people if we would just listen. And so yeah, buy the books, buy Casey's books. I'd love if she'd come on a podcast or something, but I don't know if she's a public person, but she did write these books. So yeah, just please give her an ear.
Yeah, support. We will definitely post the links for her books on Amazon. Thank you so much, Jamie, and we will see you back again next week with no doubt something super interesting. And
Okay.
to everybody for watching, thank you for joining us. As we say so often, really, these are such important topics that we need to be discussing and sharing. So please like, share, subscribe, um, leave a comment, keep the algorithms up. And yeah, whoever you think would like to or need to hear this information, please share. Hello, Foxy Fox. See, Fox
He
is
wants to
always
go
here at
for
the
his
end of the
walk.
show.
He gets a
Yeah,
treat
of
for being
course.
a good boy during the podcast.
Yeah,
So he knows what he's
exactly.
owed. He knows what he has coming to him now.
He knows. He knows it's that time. I have to ask him nicely before every show if I can borrow his mommy. He's very sweet. He's very gracious. He allows me.
He's a good boy.
Okay, guys. God bless you all. Take good care. See you very, very soon. Okay, bye.